he saw some positivity. Let's get him on. Josh, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
How you going, boys?
Another defeat today. We're getting closer and closer to that. Well, I mean, not this week because West Ham and Forest lost, but, right in the thick of that relegation fight. We've changed the manager. We've lost the first 2 games under the new manager. What did you make of what you saw today?
Yeah, I just think it's sort of more of the same. And I think you've got to understand the environment that the guys are operating under now. Most of these people have been under a very pressurized environment for a while. But this is different now because, you were talking about the team that is now up on the wall in the halls at Tottenham after winning the Europa League. If there was a hall for ineptitude, they're probably going to be on that wall, right? So look, I agree with Stel, but I think if you preface it in a number of different ways, it can make a little bit more sense, right? So if you were to break up your fans, and I guess I'm doing this because I guess where I come from, it's a whatever it takes mentality, right? So to reach the top level of sport, what do you got to do? Whatever it takes. And you don't necessarily know what you have to do at the outset. You just know that it's going to, ask things of you that you never thought you'd be asked, and then you've then got to go ahead and achieve them, right? So when I look at the sort of fan that I am, as far as what do I want to see from Spurs, I want to see championship wins. I want to see them win the league. I want to see them win Champions League. I want those moments where those pinnacle moments where it's like, okay, that was special. And unfortunately, with the situation that the club's in, particularly with the ownership and who are making decisions within the club, I remember saying maybe 3 or 4 months ago that if Spurs are to, let's just say, pivot from everything that they've been over the last, I don't know, decades, so to speak, what is it going to take? What's it going to take, and how long is it going to take? And I said, expect the journey to be confident that you are a team that can perpetually challenge for the top titles. It's going to take Spurs 10 years. And people were like, 10 years? I can't wait 10 years. Well, I'm sorry. That's what success year after year after year takes when you're at the attitude and the performance of a club like Spurs. So if you take the flip side of that and you go, okay, well, what does it cost? What are the potential costs? I have no issue with going down, because I agree with Stel in that the arrogance of the ownership and the decision makers within the club, they need the most brutal situation to fall on them. That's the only way they're going to take a look at themselves and go, hang on a minute, we're not operating the right way here, because the squad has changed, the management's changed, the football department's changed. Still the same things are reoccurring season after season. Yeah, sure, we had a blip with Ange with the Europa League, but there were some stars and moons that aligned for that to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a week-to-week fan and you just want to see your club hopefully get the 3 points, then the concept of going down is just, I mean, you just want to vomit in your mouth, right? If you're in between that and where I am, it's still very difficult to concede that and I sent you a text message today because a good mate of mine's an Arsenal fan, and he's after Fulham went 1-0 up, I said I sent him like a GIF that was like, we're going down, and then when we went 2-0 down, he sent me a text. He's like, come on Spurs, pick it up. And I sent him a text back. I said, I wonder what rounds we'll be playing Wrexham next year. Like giggle, but that's, I don't know. Like I can't tell whether we're going to go down. We are on the precipice. There's no doubt about that. I've got a sneaky feeling we're going to avoid it by something that is, a miracle of sorts. And again, maybe that's enough for the ownership to look back, but for the change that has to happen in Spurs, we have to go somewhere where we're all too afraid to admit that we probably need to go for that sort of change to take place.
When you're looking at the first two games under Tudor, do you see when you're looking at the game, do you see any difference in the players, what they're trying to do, kind of maybe their mentality on the pitch? Do you think are they pressing harder? Are they trying new things? Is there more confusion with the way he wants to play? Because it's like all of a sudden he's changed the formation and he's also playing players out of position. It seems they seem very confused again on the pitch, don't they? That was Frank's issue. Apparently, he was too technical, too tactical, like always a different system every week, all this kind of stuff. When you're watching them in the first two games, is there anything you look at and think, if we keep doing that, maybe we can start getting results, or is it still just not? You've said not much has changed, but is there anything nuanced you can see there or subtle that maybe you think could start getting us results?
Look, the first game, I thought attitudinally there was some stuff that I saw about their application. There were some situations where their desire to get into a situation one-on-one to be challenged and either win that duel or get the outcome of that duel. I saw some things enough to go, okay, wow, that's different, right? And again, that I don't put that down to the manager. I just put that down to, like if you've got any pride whatsoever, you've been a part of this squad watching the whole thing unfold and deflate, and you've got to go, hang on a minute, how many more managers have to go before people start pointing the finger at me? So that is a great motivator as far as your self-performance. But yeah, look, and I don't agree with the people who are saying the squad is crap. Sorry, that's not entirely true. I don't agree with the people who think the majority reason is that the squad is poor. Is it not good enough? 100%. We all know that it's not good enough, right? But the key indicator to me is that there are players that were better players under Ange than they've been under Frank and under Igor, understanding that Igor's had two matches, right? But and I'm not saying that that's necessarily down to the man management that Ange had, but I think the style of play that Ange wanted to play, the players are buying into that more than they're buying into what Frank is trying to do, and in a short period of time, what Igor is trying to do, right? Soccer teams want to score goals. That's what they want to score. It's those moments that motivate you to then generate them. And so you've had this team that was trying to instill, a particular attacking playing style, and sure had some challenges around injuries. Then you come in and Frank's, with the pragmatic style. And do you know what I mean? Like, I liken it to, I don't know whether I've sort of mentioned this before. Can you imagine Usain Bolt turning up to training one day and his coach going, "We're scrapping the 100 and 200. You're a marathon runner now." You imagine he'd go, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Right? That's literally the evolution of what has happened. And then on top of that, you take the what's the word? I guess the empathy for a manager who has taken you to a title, right? And the first time in Europe in 41 years, 17 years, a trophy or whatever those years are. And that whole rug has been pulled out from underneath you. That guy that believed in you every single day, that elevated your performance both as an individual and as a team to get to that point, and then the whole thing comes crashing down. And this other guy who does not have a winning cell in his body comes in late, not supported. I mean, like, we've all had jobs where we turn up to work and we're going, "What in the world am I doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That's what the players are facing every single day. So the environment is not conducive to perform at your best. And that's what Spurs is. That's what it is. At a decision-making point, the cycling of the managers, not investing in players with their weekly wages. It's just a mess. And what's going to make that change? Obviously, nothing to date has happened that has brought about that change. So what is left in front of us to bring about that change? Relegation. Mm-hmm. I don't want the team to go down. What I want is a team that is capable of challenging for titles. And I think on that road from now to challenging for titles is relegation. I think we're at that point.
When you go to think about the psychology of the players, when you've got a lot of players like Romero, Van der Ven, to be fair, you can pretty much say every player in the squad. No one obviously came to Tottenham to be in a relegation battle, right? No, like you come to Tottenham because you want to be challenging for Europe or, you know, in the higher echelons of the league. That's why all these players are here, because they think Tottenham are capable of that. So when you look at like West Ham and Forest and whatever, those teams, they kind of like aware of where they are. They understand that at this club is possibility you could be in this position, and like, so when it comes to the psychology going into games, they're fighting tooth and nail for every point. Whereas at Tottenham, it's like when you've got to scrap and fight for, and the reward is you get to stay in the league. Do you feel like psychologically wise, is that enough of, obviously it should be, but is that enough of like a motivation for these players to like give absolutely everything? Because I think we saw that when the prize was at Europa League, right? And that was in front of them, they gave it their all and they put everything into it. Whereas when the motivation was down in the Premier League, you know, the last season, the league was done, you know, we weren't getting relegated. You saw how the motivation dropped. Right now, all they got to play for is survival. But when these players are used to fighting for those big things, like, where do you think their head's at when it comes to that? Do you really believe they're scrapping for every ball? They're putting everything into it. Is survival enough in their minds to be having that extra bit, going that extra yard? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. First things first. The club recruitment, what Spurs doesn't have is a nucleus of leadership, strong character type players, right? Mm-hmm. 4 or 5 that are either, you know, influencing the younger players in the team, because we obviously have a young and relatively inexperienced squad. So we don't, and what you need is you probably need 2 of them in the defensive line, 2 of them in the midfield line, and your striker by definition needs to be a leader, right? We don't have that. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is you get what you focus on. Okay, now your brain is very clever with this sort of stuff, right? So why were the players when they were given an opportunity, and again, let's think about this from a decision-making standpoint. They were in the knockout phases or even before, but at the point where they knew they were going to be in the knockout phase of the Europa League, right? Ange was making decisions to facilitate success, right? Mm-hmm. How did he do that? He rested players from league matches, right? So if you're a player and you're in the squad and you're sitting back and going, is this just hot air? Is this guy just trying to sell me a dream? No. He's actually making decisions that at the time were damaging to his record and damaging to the chances of him being or him having his 3rd season, right? So you think about that player and how they view that manager, that he's prepared to put himself and his record and success second for their record and success, okay? Right? So you get what you focus on, okay? So everything was focused at some point, probably in late January, early February, everything was focused on the final in Bilbao. Mm-hmm. Everything, right? So it wasn't we made it, let's start focusing on it. Nah, that's how long that runway was, right? So you get what you focus on. What are they focusing on now? They're focusing on avoiding relegation. Your brain doesn't hear avoid, it hears relegation. Right? It doesn't hear, it's like, you know, my wife says all the time, she goes, I say, don't forget this. She goes, remember this, right? Mm. Because what does my brain hear? It hears forget. Mm-hmm. So what happens? I forget, right? So when you understand like high performance psychology, all that is happening is we are propagating what we're focusing on. And that's my real fear in going down, because we would be better off focusing on getting 13th or 14th. Pick a ladder position. That's what we're going to target, right? Now, if you do that, you automatically avoid relegation. But I don't see that in how they're performing, and I don't see that in how the manager's setting them up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think It makes perfect sense. But when we've got like the Champions League, that's still there as well. Like, you know, Romero's already said this season in interviews, we have a different mentality in the Champions League. Like obviously from fans, a lot of fans are saying, oh, you know, we just got to chuck that. You got to focus on staying in the Premier League. But do you think the players, they won't see it that way because that's the only shot for them of something glorious coming from this season or something they actually, you know, want to be competing for rather than back to the Premier League where you're just trying to survive. So would you be surprised if when the Champions League comes around, you see that little bit of extra motivation?
Well, look, I think we have for sure, and again, that reinforces what I was talking about what happened last year, right? You think about the league, like it's literally a cancer. Our results, you know, historically, even halfway through Ange's first season, obviously all his second season, apart from the first 4-6 weeks of this season, it's been horrible, right? So psychologically, the players get on a Champions League pitch and they're a new team, right? And you see evidence of their performance that it's been far better. I still think there's an element of who we played. We did have a very soft draw. But I still think, you know, when we play the first leg of the knockout stages, I still think you'll see a team that is playing without the scars of the league, right? And again, that's just, you know, you think of walking out now into Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week against is Palace next week?
Yeah, Thursday.
You know, Thursday. And even what Tell said about feeling the pressure, you know, this is real pressure. Like, are you playing to win a game or you're playing to not get booed at halftime? It's a different player. You're not playing free then, right? You're playing cautiously because you're trying to avoid making a mistake that could lead to a 1-0 down situation. And that's the biggest difference between, I mean, 2 games with Igor, but Frank and Ange. Ange gave them the freedom. The number of times I heard him say this, I don't care about your mistakes. I don't care how many you make. Just go out there and force the game, right? Because when you put yourself into those situations, it's inevitable that you're going to make better decisions that make particular plays less risky the more times you find that yourself in them. Right? He gave them that freedom. And that's how we were able to get... The reason why Brennan Johnson scored so many goals is because we were able to get the ball from our defensive final third into the front third so quickly, and people call him a tap-in merchant. It's what happened. And that's not fair because he actually did score some really good goals. He was open at the goal mouth because of how quickly we got the ball from the defensive third to the front third, right? The defenses could not make decisions quick enough, and then all he's got to do is tap it in. Like, and rather than what happened to get that point being what we talk about Johnson, who's, you know, he's a tap-in merchant. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what we could do with Brendan Johnson right now for sure is it was mental, like how we let him go in January, and winger was the number 1 priority position to improve in January, and we ended up with 1 less winger than we started the month with. It was absolutely astonishing. Do you think right now we're in this position with you know, the manager having to come in and firefight and change things so quickly, and he's only got now 10 games to save us? Like, are we... When you're looking at where we are and how things haven't improved immediately with Frank gone, how does that? What conclusions do you take from that? Do you conclude like it was a wrong decision to fire Frank? Did we wait too long to fire Frank, or do we have to give Tudor just a bit more time to implement something? Does he have enough time? Like, right now we're in big trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's chaos now. It's utter chaos. Like, again, you think about what's at stake for the players every practice session, every match. It's super, super high stakes now because, and you know, for the people who think the club, you know, is under financial threat. I mean, I think about 2 things, right? If you own $100,000, if you owe $100,000, that's your fault, right? If you owe $1 billion, or if you owe $100,000, you're in trouble, right? if you owe $1 billion, the bank's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Spurs isn't going. They may go insolvent. They'll be refinanced. They'll be bought out. Like Spurs will endure. There's no question about that. But yeah, I just think again they sacked. I didn't agree with sacking Ange, but if you're going to make the decision, you should have made it way earlier. Same with Frank. But again, these are people who are not. You got to be so ruthless in high performance sport, like almost cruelly so. Like a story. The Brisbane Broncos, which are a rugby league team back in Australia, halfway through each season, they come to every player and they say, "You're in our plans for the next year, or you're not." Straight up, like they give them that window of time to be able to find a new club, or they can, if they've got a long-term contract, but they literally are not playing first grade, right? So they're that ruthless. And as a result, they've been successful over many, many years. And Spurs just don't have that DNA about what success actually takes. It's cruel, brutal, ruthless. It's all of those sorts of things that the club dances around those sorts of decisions. I don't know why they do it. I don't have the answers to it, but
it's what Scott Munn said in a recent interview. I don't know if you saw that.
No, what did he say?
He said yesterday, a couple of days ago in an interview, he was saying in the boardroom there isn't a culture of success. He said because he was on the board at Man City, and he said, if they ever had a year where they didn't win a trophy or anything like that, or maybe they lost a game.
I did see that.
He said they were saying it's unacceptable, and there was a real culture of when the best standards. Whereas at Tottenham, he said he didn't get that feeling within the boardroom, like losing or not winning a trophy. It wasn't a big deal. That wasn't their focus.
Yeah. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so it's interesting to hear from someone within the boardroom. But what would you be surprised if if we don't? Well, let's say on Thursday we lose again to Palace. Could they even be considering a third change? Third change, second change.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't. I'm still getting used to the next this iteration. I don't know where you go to from here. I mean, I didn't know where you went with Frank being let go. But look, I was hopeful we'd get a draw today and if we got a point today, I think that would have been amazing. If we lose next week, I still don't think it's a 50-50 chance that we go down. But I think if we lose next week, I think it's right on the edge. Because I look at there's a week where I think Forest play Burnley and West Ham play Wolves. Oh my Lord!
Jesus.
Like that's in the same weekend. I think it's in 2 or 3 rounds. No, maybe 3 rounds time, mid-March, something like that. I mean, that's panic stations that weekend. And I think I've got a sneaky suspicion that we're going to have to beat Leeds the second last week to stay up. I think.
Oh man, it is. It's absolutely diabolical at the moment. But look, Josh, it's great to speak to you as always. Appreciate you
good
coming
to see
on.
you guys.
It's nice to see you. And look, let's hope better circumstances next time you call in.
Let's hope Big up, guys.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for calling in. That was Josh.